For almost 150 years, the Saratoga name has been synonymous with the finest quality, sustainably sourced spring water available anywhere. Saratoga carries on the rich tradition of its forefathers by crafting each stunning blue glass bottle with the same attention to detail and care that has been its hallmark for generations. Visit SaratogaSpringWater.com today or ask for us by name at your local market or restaurant. Saratoga Spring Water. Make every day exquisite.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Talking Horses. Big A, Anthony Stabile, Andy Serling. Did get a little bit of rain overnight, nothing hugely substantial, but we are off the turf for 2, 3, and 6. 8 and 9 are still on. We are holding MTOs in those races, possibly some showers very late in the day, but I think we have a good chance to keep them on, and that's good news. And when you consider the dire forecast yesterday, today, if we lose 3 out of a total of about 8 or 9, 3 out of about 10 or 11 turf races, that's not bad.
Dude, we'd sign up for that right now, right?
Well, we would have signed up for it on Tuesday,
on
for
Tuesday
sure,
or
or
Wednesday,
Monday,
yeah, for sure.
last weekend, for sure.
Yeah, I think we'll get through today.
Yeah.
We'll see how much rain comes in tonight. Hopefully the forecasters are wrong, and we'll see what happens.
Well, we'll see. That's not, worrying about the rain is something horse players like to do. We should worry more about trying to pick some winners. You need to pick some winners and head over to Naira Bets and play them through Naira Bets. NairaBets.com, match 200, will match you with $200 your initial deposit, and you too can play and support the game in New York. Keep the money in the game, play through Naira Bets. Contest, you got a few hours left to sign up until 5 o'clock today to play the Saturday contests. Also, it's Naira.com/contests or whatever. Is that what it is, contest?
Yes.
This one's a little confusing. So you might need some explanation. If you hit the first double for, I guess, $10 or more, I don't think it's been exactly 10. If you bet it and you hit it, you get a $10 bonus, and you got to opt in to play that. I think that's, we have America's Day at the races, by the way, from 1 to 5:30.
That's not performer.
What's that?
Nothing.
1 to 5:30, America's Day at the races on FS2. All right, race number 1. I think we may have picked the same horse in here. What do you like about This Lady Is the Law?
Debuted for George Weaver.
Or is it This Lady Is the Law? I mean, you're the announcer, right?
Yeah, This Lady Is the Law.
The law.
Yeah. It's not tis the law. This lady is the law.
This Lady Is.
This lady is the law.
Okay.
Debuted going
Get that
7 closing weekend at Saratoga. That's an ambitious move for a 2-year-old. She took some money that day, closing Sunday. We didn't see her for 9 months. She tried turf, dropping in, back to the dirt.
We got a lot of PP regurgitation
I don't know what else you. I mean,
Okay.
the fact that she was 6-1 on debut, going 7, and now
George Weaver does usually get bet in his debuts or with his horses, right?
I guess.
And was Danny Gargan. He gets bet as well.
Yeah.
She's obviously turned out to not be very good. Here's a stat for George Weaver. He has very good numbers going turf to dirt, maiden special weight to maiden claimer, where he's 6 for 19. It's interesting because overall maiden special weight to maiden claimers, he's 7 for 32. So he's 1 for 13 with straight, dirt to dirt. But turf to dirt, he's had real success. So I thought that was actually kind of interesting. Like you say, Danny Gargan took some money first time out. I don't know how strong that field was, but there's not much competition. I mean, you look at a horse who's one of the favorites in here, and we'll go down to Monmouth and look at Shining Colors running second to Tremaine. We're a little familiar with Tremaine around here. There's not much horse when you've got Shining Colors and Miss Alex as the likely competition. I think the draw of This Lady Is the Law is more that she's the new face against a couple of horses that you don't have a lot of respect for, but are the 2 horses to beat against the 5.
The inside filly Shining Colors was 6-5 off a 15-month layoff last time.
Right, with the 39 buyer in her prior race, and she lost to Tremaine. And before you take her, and I'm not saying she can't win, because obviously she can, but take a look at the PPs of Tremaine and use Formulator for that, and you'll be less impressed. And that's why a horse like the 5 we're almost always going to take a horse like this because it's a stranger in a group of horses you just don't want.
Yeah, and Miss Alex, I guess, Miss Alex, I understand her being the alternative because the maiden claiming race, if she was, if she
Plus
would have
that Tom Worley
definitively.
firster, though, that came back and ran terribly
Yep,
off the claim.
I know. That's what I was going to say. The horse ran terrible off the claim out of that race.
It's the new face against two horses that'll be relatively short prices as well that you don't want. It's not even, I don't even think it's so much about the 5. It's just about
it's
not
more of an
wanting the other
indictment
ones.
on the other 2, yeah.
Exactly.
I don't disagree.
Race number 2, off the turf. I don't mind this is off the turf. I did kind of want to bet the Great Gazoo.
Dylan Davis rides the 3. Louis Cardenas rides the 8.
Thank you for that. Dylan's on the 3.
And Louis Cardenas is on the 8. You and I basically just flip-flopped here.
Basically. Okay, well, let's look at Papa Smooth last time out. Here's my problem with Papa Smooth. Okay, the pace was hot. No doubt about it. The horse that buried Papa Smooth in the duel finished ahead of him. That bothers me.
Yes, that's an issue. That's obviously an issue.
If that horse had backed up and run 8th, you know, I probably would have picked this horse.
I don't disagree with that. And I assume he's going to have to deal with distract and attack again, or a new shooter on the front end. I don't know what distract and attack is going to have to transfer his speed from the turf to the dirt. And I don't,
Yeah, but
he's got
turf speed is faster than dirt speed.
Yeah.
I agree. Papa Smooth could be loose, but I agree. How about this? Joe Sharp off the claim. Dirt Sprint Maidens, just 1 for 10. For whatever it's worth. He's 2 for 16 overall with an 80-cent ROI.
You know what I always find interesting,
3
Andy?
of these hit the board, by the way.
When horses like this, I mean, you look at this horse's PPs. This horse is going to be running in his 3rd barn in his 5th start. So, for me, when horses get claimed like this, from, started with Michelle Nevin, claimed by Mike Maker, now by Joe Sharp, Sharp claiming barns, somebody has to see something here.
Well, this horse had worked well with the 2-year-old sales, and that's why Kurt Wyckoff and 3 Diamonds claimed this horse off the debut. He'd actually texted me and said he tried to buy this horse a 2-year-old, so I did it. And let's face it, it seemed like a good claim first time out. The horse ran very well. Now, the
Best race of his life so far.
That's the problem, right? He's seemingly getting worse with every start.
Yes.
And with all due respect to Joe Sharp, Michelle Nevin, Mike Maker.
Absolutely.
Right, that's my problem. I mean, I don't. Joe Sharp does a great job, but it doesn't matter. He's claiming from people who also do a great job. So why would you expect this horse to move forward? And I look at that stat and I think, well, Joe hasn't shown himself to be a miracle worker with these horses, these maidens off the claim. I just feel like this horse might have run the best race it's ever going to run as his debut and is never going to run it again.
Could very well be the case. I like the blinkers going. This horse's best race came going 6, first time out with a pair of blinkers on. Mike Maker took the blinkers off the claim. You think he's going to be favored?
Well, 100% cinch to be a favorite.
Okay.
How's he not going to be favored?
The cinch in here.
Who's going to be favored over him?
The cinch in here for me was you selecting the 5.
Okay, well, forgetting about that nonsense, Divinicris ran in a killer field last time. That was a crazy, crazy race. Dave Donk actually had a killer first turn there. He got second.
The
horse who won the race, for people who aren't familiar with it,
ran behind Mandaloon in his first start back in.
Or is that just no? Oh, that's the fan. It's not raining.
No, I think
you're the one who should be able to see. Is it? Okay.
American Revolution ran behind Mandaloon first time.
Right.
Out.
American Revolution ran almost as well as Mandaloon in his debut at Keeneland. And Sinful Dancer's a fast horse for George Weaver, who'd run 2 races prior to that in the dirt in the 80s. This was a killer field. There's turf breeding and there's dirt breeding. I just think this is the interesting player, and since I'm not picking Papa Smooth on top, I have no idea where else I'm supposed to go in this race.
Half the JC Shooting Star, who does it on both surfaces. Yeah, I didn't, and it might not matter in here, but this horse didn't debut until midway through his 4-year-old year, for what that's worth.
I don't worry about those things.
I mean, obviously, you're using this horse if you're making pick 4s and pick 5s.
Race number 3. We'll take a look at Heavy Roller going back 2 races, beating Runabout, which is, I think, 3 back for Runabout. I gotta tell you something. I smell a rat with Heavy Roller. This horse caught lightning in a bottle, got some perfect trips. Then he comes back in his last start. He stinks the joint up at 2-1. Now Rob Atras is dropping him in for 10,000. I got a stat afterwards that is not very pretty for Rob Atras when he makes these kind of drops. I don't trust this horse at all. And Runabout claimed for 20,000, running for 10. They may run 1-2. They're the right two horses on paper. I don't trust either one of these horses, and I refuse to pick them on top.
I picked Runabout. And I did not have this stat. I mean,
I know
you just feel like,
we know
Rob, you just feel, yeah, well, it's not all about stats.
I didn't say it was. You didn't have to tell us. You could also tell us that you don't have a Yankee hat.
You just feel like when you see this from Rob, it's not a successful move. And listen,
what it says, it's actually, because Rob is smart enough to understand this, this is a compliment.
Oh, it absolutely is.
It shows that Rob is dropping horses for a reason.
But
people have high percentages.
But from our point of view, from the gambler's point of view, it's not a good move. These are ones you want to kind of stay away from.
What it actually says is there is a reason the horses are making significant drops. Some trainers do it for different reasons, and they have success. Chad Brown, for instance. Rob Atras, when he drops, and this is one of the most successful claiming trainers in New York right now, when he takes a severe drop, he's not doing it to try to win a race. He wants to win, but he's doing it because he doesn't want the horse.
And this horse can win on memory.
But he's a little dressed up in those 2 wins.
I'm not saying he's not, but he's not facing the toughest bunch he's ever going to face,
I don't disagree, but don't you worry about Runabout? Claimed 6 weeks ago, drops down significantly to that bottom level. I agree. I would rather bet Runabout than Heavy Roller. Don't get me wrong. And one of these two is probably going to win the race because my horse isn't exactly standing on particularly firm ground. Having said that, that's a bad drop.
Yeah.
I mean, let's do the math on this, right? Claim for 20, purse is 28,000, so they get 15,000. They've had the horse for over.
It's close to break even.
Not even. After you're paying the jockey and you're paying the trainer,
it's close to break even.
It's close to breaking even. You didn't claim Runabout to hope to win a race, get claimed, and break even.
No question about it. No question about it.
Ben Mondello is a sharp claiming owner.
That's what happens sometimes. And look, this horse is not facing the toughest bunch. I would imagine Hooray for Harvey is going to go to the lead, and I would imagine Runabout is right behind him.
I agree with you. Runabout's the horse.
And that was it.
I'm not. I'm.
Well, you'd never see him winning line like that in 10 claimer, would you?
Yeah,
it's amazing.
Suburban tomorrow.
But
but
different than the Suburban.
But he's right. I mean, these two horses are going to take the. How can they not? As far as Hooray for Harvey. Obviously, I have a bit of a thing for Hooray for Harvey. I'm a little upset that he doesn't share the love that I have for him. And he was bad last time. There's no doubt about it. On the other hand, I don't think his race 2 back was that bad. I thought he was the speed. He's got some races. Antonio Arriaga, I like betting his horses. I had to find an alternative, and he's certainly a better alternative than the other two that I just don't know if they can really run competitively anymore.
Yeah, I don't have any illusions that Hooray for Harvey is a particularly strong pick. The 5 or 6, one of them will probably win from memory over Hooray for Harvey. That's what I said earlier, and I'll tell you one thing about Heavy Roller, though, and it's going to be a little deceiving. His wet track form, his wet track record looks great. He has not been good on the wet tracks in the last
as he gets
older. I'm talking about a wet track, Andy.
So now you're differentiating wet track. So when you come up here and you tell me that a good track is a wet track, I can bring this up and say that you said it wasn't a wet track on July 2nd.
There's a reason there's different distinctions. Otherwise, they would just say wet and dry.
The distinctions seem to be very much catered to what your opinions are.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
I'm going to remember.
There were some horses that love every kind of wet track. Exaggerated would have ran on any kind of wet track.
You won 3 lunches yesterday. We're down to 73.
I did.
I actually didn't realize that your horse, the 2, was running second in that race, and I thought it was very close. I was looking at the wrong horse in the stretch in that race where the 6th race, I think. Oh. You should have had to pick 5 yesterday. I'm so annoyed at you not for having that pick 5. It paid great value.
I bet pennies.
But I mean, you had the only opinion that mattered.
Yeah.
You had the only opinion that mattered. You're like the last winner. That was the only opinion in the sequence that mattered. The only one.
It was.
I mean, that was the opinion that was supposed to matter. That was the only horse in the whole sequence that you picked that was a price.
Were you surprised as I was that Happy Farm was not on the lead yesterday? They went 23, essentially, 22.96. He was not on the lead. I was stunned.
I didn't like Happy Farm. I know he ran second, but it was a distant
I wouldn't have liked
second.
him if you told me he was going to rate off a 23.
They made the mistake of thinking that because he rated last time behind a super fast pace that he's a horse that wants to rate. But a lot of crazy decisions are made by connections around here, to be honest with you. And I think the complete misunderstanding of the value of speed in New York, especially in horse racing, has really hurt the game. And I think it's hurt a lot of horses from showing their best chance as a thoroughbred.
There was an instance down.
Alan Jerkins would never have done that.
Alan Jerkins, that horse would have been 10 in front yesterday.
Right, exactly. I
10
mean,
I'm
and
not
I
even
know
exaggerating,
he
10 in
doesn't.
front.
I know he's not around anymore, but I think it's fair to say he's one of the greatest trainers to ever grace the racetrack. And I think that great line that I think that Richie said, where Alan said that you're trying to change evolution. You know,
Alan just said
it's
it all along.
like,
It's funny.
It's like just why are you taking horses away from the things that they do best? Let them lose
Bobby
doing it.
Newman and I were having this conversation on HRN yesterday, and there was a race at Ellis. I wrote the horse's name down. I don't have it. It happened within 20 minutes of Happy Farm, or half hour of Happy Farm. And it was the same thing. Like, the horse was loose on the lead. The horse was fourth. The gate opened, the horse was laying fourth in a 5-horse field, and you're just like, I got to bet this. I got to bet whatever I can bet back on this horse with an aggressive rider next time.
It shouldn't even be an aggressive rider. That riders should be riding their horse, their talent, and decisions shouldn't be made in the jocks room, before races. I mean, every rider should have the
And we don't know that for a fact, but it certainly
No, I'm
seems
not
like
saying-
they leave the room.
It just seems like
with
there's
a plan
there's a
and they just
decision.
stick to it. Yep.
And I'm not saying it's some sort of collusion type situation,
No.
but it just seems like far too often there's some sort of this horse is the speed, and
I can't
they're
go
not.
with this horse. Correct. That I feel like that happens on 5 times a day, where it's just like, well.
But
I can't-
honestly, I don't think it's on the jockeys as much as the trainers. If I'm a trainer, I'm the connections. The trainer should have a plan as well, and the trainer should be able to say to the jockey, I want you going, and if somebody gets
I
in your
don't
way
disagree.
and goes and you lose, that's so be it. But I'm not
it's
losing
an
this race sitting
overall
third with the best
ideology.
speed.
There's just we see very few speed duels around. I mean, when we were younger, when I was a kid, there was speed duels 4 times a day.
Absolutely. And by the way, just because there were horses that were vying for the lead didn't mean speeds didn't hold on.
Plenty.
But I know that rating speeds doesn't give them their best chance. And haven't we seen enough of these sort of outrageous results in turf races here? You look at Eric Cancel's ride on that Megacity the other day, and credit to Eric for going to the front. And they just sort of lackadaisically let these horses go.
I mean,
Heeman Harkey has made the crew look silly a couple of times, one with a win and one with a narrow defeat.
2 upsets, two big upsets from Eric Megacity.
I think there's this notion.
And Tribhuvan.
Yeah.
And Fort Marcy just right to the top.
And what did they find out with Tribhuvan?
Second in the
They
Manhattan
found
with the
out
same
that with
tactics.
Tribhuvan that sending him and going
Just go.
aggressively is the way to get him to run his best races. He's never going to be. Honestly, he's somewhat of a claimer
That's
if you're
why
not
when-
saying the lead. And they go to the lead and they're aggressive, and he's a grade 1 participant.
That's why
incredible.
I also think when you say, and there's a conversation for another day, I think sometimes when you see horses get claimed, and you see certain barns have success with horses off the claim, it's because more often than not, those horses off the claim are ridden more aggressively and have more speed next time. And it looks like they find the speed, but the truth of the matter is, a lot of these horses have had it.
They had the speed,
and
and it
they're
just
not
wasn't
using
being
it.
used
Nobody's
to their
using
advantage.
it.
No question about it. There's no question. I agree wholeheartedly with that. And listen, a lot of this game, you have to have the right horse to get there, but you've got to run them in the right spot, in the right surface.
No question about it.
At the right distances. And listen, it's not always so easy. The races have to come up, and I'm not trying to oversimplify it. And at the end of the day, you still have to have a good horse, but don't take a good horse who's in the right spot and compromise their chances by using foolish decisions.
Especially when the right spot is on the front
It's
end.
frustrating for horse players because I think a lot of us feel that, listen, we all want to think that we have an idea of how a race is going to be run. And a lot of things happen at the gate that are beyond the riders and our control, and that's fair. And none of us are as smart as we think we are about how to outline how races are going to be run. But it sure as heck seems like over the last decade or so, especially here, and this is where I look and you look most of the time, though you look at other tracks, it seems that
Happens everywhere.
it's hard to, you know what? I'll tell you something. It doesn't happen at Churchill. Using the Timeform pace projector, it's amazing how many dirt races I'm looking at. Not always. Not like it could have been or used to be, but a lot of races are sort of lining up around here. It's almost laughable. You see, a confirmed 3 horses can be forward, and somebody was 8th early.
Well, Ricardo Santana Jr. is at Churchill Downs, and that's a guy who, if he's on a speed horse,
but so does Tyler
and Tyler
Gaffalione.
Gaffalione, those are 2 guys that, yes, if they're on a speed horse, they're going to lose with their
race
best
number
weapon.
4 kicks off the pick 6, no carryover. I don't want you and I are both picking against Tapalist. Who's off the claim for Diodoro, and we'll take a look at Tapalist. This is 2 back winning. I don't know, dude. If you draw a line through this race, how much do you want this horse, right?
Whatever you can get.
No, if you draw a line through this race, you don't want any part of this horse.
If you draw a line through it, I thought you said his
Because
last
other
race,
than
I'm
this
sorry.
race, what race does this horse run recently that you want any part of? And I know it's Diodoro off the claim, but they shipped some horses here recently, and it's not like their horses are
And
doing anything special.
Truth be told, Andy, I know you
can
think
win,
you think it could be a little phooey. How about this horse's 3 races on wet tracks? This horse doesn't lift a hoof on wet tracks. So I think if you combine the fact that what you just said about that race 2 back, if you take that off his card, now combine it with adding some moisture to the track, and I mean more than some, it's sloppy.
What do you like about Beachfront?
This horse is a bet against, I think, today.
No, he can win. I'm not throwing out Diodoro horses off the claim.
Fair enough. Now, my horse, Beachfront, is probably affected by the wet track as well. I don't think he's anywhere near as good on the wet as he is on the dry.
Why?
Yeah.
Wait a second. Got a muddy sealed track 6 races back that's better than or in line with almost every race he's run except for his last race. So I'm going to have to disagree with that, Hui. And he's got a 64 and 67 that are in line with his 2 sloppy sealed tracks. So I have no idea what that's referring to.
I was hoping.
He's got 2 career wins in 12 seconds and thirds. That's who he is. He doesn't run badly on wet tracks. He just doesn't win.
He's supposed to be.
Your point of 6 is fair, but this is silly.
He's supposed to be off of a horse like Anzio Beach in here, who I don't know if Anzio Beach wants any part of any kind of distance. I know he was made in the mile, but that was for 30.
It's very impressive.
So it's called. My grandfather was a prisoner of war in Anzio for 18 months. Yep.
Wow.
World War II. And Omar Marino Hernandez is aggressive. So Anzio Beach is going to be on the lead. I would imagine Beachfront's going to be right off of him. They've never stretched Beachfront. And I kind of wonder if he's just not fast enough as a sprinter. Give this horse a little bit more ground and hope he can grind it out. I didn't want the favorite.
He doesn't win. That's my problem with him.
None of them win.
Well, you're right. And listen, my problem with Ravinio, I picked Ravinio because he's going to be a big price.
It's going to be a huge price.
And I think he'll be better than that 5-1 morning line. But he's got figs that are fast enough. Now, the concern is his races in New York are not as good as his races out of town.
That's an issue.
This horse has clearly run better for Nick Zito out of town. But he's a horse that can be forward. It's a big rider change to Dylan Davis. Is it me, or is Dylan riding really well since he's come off the injury?
I texted Dylan last night. The same thing.
He has not blocked?
He is
just me.
He is finishing. He looks like
he gave that horse
back
the feature, the horse in the last race.
Yeah.
I mean, that you liked. I mean, he drew a good post. He had a good position.
But he gave
Dylan
a good ride.
job of keeping his position.
And that's a big thing, and that I think comes along with the strength. It looks like he came back a stronger rider, and that's very important. I think that if there was a big knock on him, it was that. And now it seems like it's gone because he seems like he's. I think Dylan's riding really well. I agree with you. Yeah.
I think he's really riding as well as I've seen him.
And there's a horse that could, like you said.
He could be forward.
He could be forward. He could be working on a good
being
trip.
Aggressive.
Absolutely. Yeah. No,
he's got race
impossible.
fast enough. I thought he'd be a better price.
Not
that
impossible.
kicks off the early pick 6. No carryover. 15% takeout. $1 minimum. Race number 5.
The only pick 6. You said the early pick 6. It's the only pick 6.
No, it is the early one. It's the late one too. Don't correct me.
You're fired up today. Fired up today.
Who wouldn't be fired up to get to spend some quality time with you?
The pleasure is all yours, my friend. That's all I can say. So Jesse the Body Ventura
can't be pleasurable for you to be you. Race number 5
it's great
off
being
the turf.
The Big A.
Raw Courage. Go ahead.
Slow first time.
You think?
I mean, the race was slow.
You think? Well, 37 Buyers actually is pretty good for 2-year-olds. I mean, the 2-year-olds have just been so slow.
Yeah.
They have. I mean, when a horse wins yesterday by a pole and gets a 54 Buyer, it says a lot about the ones behind it. I still say that Little Drama is the 2-year-old that I'm looking forward to seeing that West Point runner come back on an 86 Buyer.
Yeah.
It was a 3-horse field. Kendrick rode that horse, right?
I want to say yes. I think it's him and Witt
Kendrick
right
sounds
now.
like his rehab's coming along well. Looking forward to seeing him in Saratoga.
Yep. This horse wasn't very fast. This horse has experience. Horse ran on a sloppy track.
This horse is a turf horse.
A lot of bugs up here today.
I think it was a big one.
Wow, you think this horse is if you think he's a turf horse.
Really, the bugs haven't bothered me yet.
Bugs have been bugging me. Yeah.
Not just the bugs, you're right.
No.
Other bugs, too.
You're a pest. You're not a bug. It's a big difference.
Is there a big difference?
Yes.
I mean, I guess this horse, I picked this horse second. I'm not against. There's not a lot to go on here.
No.
I mean, Run Curtis Run's going to get bet. They left this one in. I'm taking it as a negative sign they left this one in. This is the one with all the turf pedigree.
Yeah,
Maybe Mike
turf.
Baker wants to get a race into it. Maybe he wants to get a race into him, give him a tour. I mean, that doesn't mean he can't win, but I'm saying I'm betting.
He worked well enough on the main track, too. I mean, you see a string of 48 breezes going a half mile.
I'm betting
don't know.
surprise boss.
You're going to get this guy to the winner's circle in New York, huh?
Who?
Juan
Lozano?
Vaz is like 0 for 60 between Aqueduct and Belmont. This horse made up a zillion lengths last time.
This horse ran.
Yeah?
This horse, I did some numbers on him. He won his last 3.5 furlongs in 41.96, according to Trackus.
Wow.
He came home in 18.18 for the last 3/16 of a mile. He was running, and these are the kind of horses that are usually more professional the second time out and get a little more in the race.
Did you worry about the War Dance at all? I mean, what's it, 1 or 2 on dirt?
How many does he run in the dirt?
We saw quite a few this winter.
They're mostly turf dams, though. This is
Yeah.
a dirt dam.
Okay.
This is the dirt dam.
Have at it. Listen, have at it. Like I said,
Got the horse third.
I do. I absolutely do. I'm just
You
saying.
let this horse beat you in the pick 4, pick
No,
5,
no,
the way you
no,
let
no,
the way
no,
you
no,
let
no,
that
no.
let
No,
beat
but
the
here's-
6 horse
but here's
yesterday
the problem.
beat you. You
Like
dope.
like you said.
$254 pick 5. You
Like you
dope.
said, Run Curtis run is all turf on the bottom, on the top really too. So it's a turf pedigree. I would not be surprised if this horse is favored today.
Who?
Surprise boss.
Okay, I'll bet she's not favored. One lunch.
You know what?
bet
I'll
you.
take the bet because I think they see the same thing we see. With that Raw Courage was not very fast. I think you probably would want Coinage. I think Coinage was okay, and they're going to see that the horse made up a dozen lengths.
Okay. I got one of those lunches back. I'm going to get to 100. I got to get out of neutral here. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back with the late pick 4, which includes 2 turf races after a quick break, and those quick showers are gone, by the way.
Make business meetings exquisite. Make a weekend outing exquisite. Make a late night snack exquisite. Make a night on the town exquisite. For nearly 150 years, the Saratoga Spring Water Company has been producing the finest spring water available anywhere. Saratoga Spring Water. Make every day exquisite.
Welcome back to Talking Horses, presented by our good friends at Saratoga Water. It was nice being in Saratoga. It's a great town.
Less than 2 weeks, 12 days back. Crazy.
Closer to 1 week. I'm going up a week from Sunday, actually. Race number 6 is off the turf. Didn't have a particularly strong opinion in this race on the turf, so I don't think really mind. So you are going to...
Callie Fitz.
Because you have a tip on this horse or something?
No, I did not. First time out, this horse broke from the inside and kind of. I didn't love the break.
2 posts.
Yeah, well, that's inside. I mean, it's not the rail, but I didn't say rail. I said inside.
Why is that bad?
Well, I mean, she kind of just. She kind of just took herself out of there, and then she pinned her ears, and she was just all over the place. Now, the comment is climbed.
Then she was entering the turf the next.
Comment is climbed. Yes. No, I know. Comment was climbed. I think she's going to benefit from the race. I don't know if she can dirt.
There's no story on this horse.
No, I have zero story.
Do you know the dam sire, Seattle Fitz? What was the big race that he won, and who did he beat, and who rode him?
Well, Richie rode him. He won the Brooklyn, and that would be Kieran McLaughlin.
It was West Point, too.
That was like the
Who was
West
second?
Point.
My favorite horse. Was the favorite.
1993,
It's a huge figure. I think
was
that
it?
number was like a 116 or something. That was a big race. They went like 46 and change, small piece or something.
Was that? I don't think it was Formal Gold.
No. He would have been
right?
formal gold if he had a good trainer.
Who was this?
Well, he was trained by Christophe Clement, who we know can't train a dirt horse.
Who was it?
The great Dynever.
Was it Dynever?
Yeah.
Seattle Fitz was only 04?
No, well, no, wait a sec. But yeah, it was probably 04.
Dynever was in the funny side Belmont.
Yeah. So 04, 05.
Huh.
Yeah.
See, for me, that's where I lose time. I felt like Seattle Fitz was earlier. Anyway, yeah, I mean, I thought this horse
Okay.
going to be a little bit of a price.
Okay.
I'm hoping
Could take some money
little
first
more
time out.
ground. Yeah, took a little money.
It's a bad, terrible field, but we'll look at horses that are going to get bet like Raffinity, and this is Raffinity's race 2 back. And listen, obviously, if he runs his race 2 back, he's going to win. I think that Raffinity is a better horse in a race like this when he's able to be forward. He was awful last time. Now, I don't know what happened, but he was bad in there. Now, this was a they knew, because this horse was bet this day like they knew he was going to win. And he only lost because Voice of Spring got a great ride by Jose Lezcano, and he ran a winning race. And if he runs that 69 Beyer, he's simply the horse to beat in this race. I don't totally trust him, though.
I guess I slept this horse. I'm trying to remember why I didn't like this horse, and I think it was the fact that I don't know if distance is this horse's friend. I should have had this horse somewhere.
This is his friend. He's a better distance horse.
I don't know about that.
What are you talking? What player?
I know off the one race it looks that way, but I don't know if this horse wants more ground.
So based on his PPs, he wants more ground, but
Andy,
you don't think
wasn't he home last time? 2 starts back.
Well, Voice of Spring would be 3 to 5 in this race, in our opinion.
Well, he's a winner, so yes, he would be.
But he lost to Voice of Spring.
I mean, I guess.
No, you must have fallen asleep on this horse. It's okay that you did, but don't come up with a silly reason that you didn't have him in the top 4, because that's insane. He's clearly the horse to beat in this race, and it's not even close. Now, I don't have a problem if you want to take the 7 against him, but stop. I mean, you picked a horse who finished 2.5 lengths behind him, 4 lengths behind him, a second, so I don't know. Anyway, forgetting about that. Tapplesider did not too much running in that race. But he did make a little move in the turn, and he's a second-time starter that cost a lot of money for Barclay Tagg with blinkers on. And I'm just kind of hoping that Tapplesider is one of these second-time stars that can just improve second time out.
The horse can
obviously the
win.
horse has to improve. He didn't run nearly well enough to beat the likes of Raffinity or even a little bit of Sass. That's what I want. I'm going to use a little opponent's dream. He is a bit of a plotter, but he's got some races that aren't that bad. I'm going to use 3, 4, and 11 in here. The 11's the one to beat, but I'm going to try to get Tapplesider and hope the horse can improve second time out with blinkers on.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think your 7's ridiculous. I
want to see how they bet Tapplesider today.
Okay, race number 7. I'm sorry to Brilliant Brook scratch because I think he's hopeless and he would have taken money.
I put him 4. I had him 4.
Right,
but
I didn't think he would. He's just and he did have a trip last time. He did stumble to start, but he's kind of a phony. Kid Bourbon's just the horse to beat in this race. I'm not sure why I have him 3rd. And his race 2 back, and this was one of a number of very tough beats at prices I took at this meet, to be honest with you. Because if he doesn't blow the break in here, he obviously wins. And I get that slow and stride. If we can get the replay up, we'll show the start of his race. He's the number 5, breaking from this 2-post. He just doesn't break. And he's actually back to last at this point, you know? And maybe it says slow to stride. But also, I think it was more that he didn't break. And then he gets in stride, and he rushes way up. And he obviously ran the best race of anybody in here. And this was a pretty solid field. He could handle a wet track. The problem with Kid Bourbon is he's 1 for 15 with 5 seconds and 3/3. But he's an hour the horse to beat in here.
Yeah. No real knock on him. He doesn't win.
First line was very short price in this race. He spotted him lengths. He ran the best race. It was a tough beat. It was also 8 to 1 that day. You've taken the number 5 Parade Field on top.
No. Second. I have the 3 on top.
Oh, you have the 3
I'm with you with Uncle Moon Knight. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, I apologize.
No,
okay.
it's all right.
Well, the other horse is going to take money is Parade Field, who is very logical. He's run some big figures. His last race is obviously concerned. He just ran the race we saw, and he didn't do any running. As far as Uncle Moonlight, we'll take a look at his last race where he finished 3rd, and you can talk about him.
Now behind Wind Machine, Mr. Phil, who got to control a pretty easy pace this afternoon. He's made up a little ground on him. You can see Indian Council go to the inside here, and he's just going to keep plugging along here. Now, they ran this horse 1 mile and a 16th first time out, did Michelle Nevin. And he ran into Creed that day. It's taken him a while to get back to distance, a few weeks past a year. But I don't know. I kind of feel like the way he ran in his last 2, a little more distance is going to be, in this instance, well,
he doesn't have a pedigree that actually says that he wants more distance. I mean, it doesn't say he's not going to handle it.
But the fact that she debuted him 1 mile and a 16th,
why does the distance really matter? He ran well enough in his last race to be relatively competitive here. And you've got the 5 Parade Field, whose last race was terrible and a little hard to trust. And you've got Kid Bourbon, who's an hour the horse to beat, but he's also 1 for 15, and he's very unreliable. He's not just 1 for 15. He's 1 for 15 was sprinkled in short prices throughout his PPs. So he just becomes the sort of alternative in here. I don't think he needs more distance to necessarily win. Just needs to show the continued good form he's had his last 2 starts, doesn't he?
I think the distance is going to help him because, again, he's not particularly
Well, the worst
fast.
race he's ran was a mile and 16th on a track similar to what he's on today.
That was his first start. It was without blinkers. Obviously, he found his way into the claiming ranks and now the starter allowance ranks. So obviously something went. But for me,
well, maybe it was the
fact that
distance in wet
Michelle
track.
Nevin ran this horse a mile and a 16th first time out leads me to believe she believes that this horse is going to want a little
Except I think
more
Michelle
ground.
would also say to you that she was wrong. Because he ran.
Is she going to run the horse? Is she going to run the horse long off 7 months?
Well, but so what? She's running shorter race than horses run well.
I think she learned her lesson the first time about not running the horse long.
I don't say the horse can't win a mile, but I think
No, I
that's
understand.
silliness. I think you're saying, listen, Michelle's a great trainer, but she gets things wrong sometimes, and
They
she'd be
all
the
get
first one
things-
to admit it.
They all get things wrong
Right.
sometimes.
She
Yeah.
clearly, I mean, I think one of the questions of this horse was why was she running it long? And don't forget, that was an extremely fast pace first time out, and this horse had a very good trip behind it, and he was brutal.
See, I think Parade Field's interesting because I think part of the reason Parade Field ran as poorly as he did last time is that he was closer to a quicker pace than he ordinarily is. I think if they let this
Pace
horse
held together
settle,
in that race, though.
Yeah.
I think that's why he ran 20 buyer points worse than he's
That's
been
not,
running.
well, I mean, did he really run the last 3/16 of a mile? I think he was just taken out of his element a little bit. They went a little faster than he's accustomed
We
to.
know they gave up on this horse in the stretch. That's a given. We have to look too hard in his
that's part of
PPs
the
to know
reason-
that.
well, that's part, but
No,
that's
he
part
can
of the
win.
reason he's going to be
yeah,
there.
yeah, I'm going to use 2 3 5s. I'm not going to hone in on the 3 Uncle Moonlight. I thought maybe he'd be the best price of the 3. David obviously disagrees, and he's usually right. Race number 8. It's a real change to race number 8
On the turf, folks.
And we will talk about the races and off the turf race in just a moment. We do have time. Because Silky Blue was the controlling speed in here, and now the speed is Dublin or nothing, who has absolutely no turf pedigree and now has to run in a turf course that has a little bit of give in it. Maybe he wires the field. My feeling in this race is you must bet against Kokopelli. And we'll look at Kokopelli's last race because he's about as dressed up, in my opinion, as a horse can possibly be. He's caught 2 supersonic paces. He got a gold rail trip in his debut before angling out late in that race. This was the fastest pace of the entire year in turf racing in New York. And he's at everything dropping his lap. He beat Snicket, who's not very good. Now he's got to go 7, and now he's in a completely different scenario in a race that has no pace. Maybe with the 5 turf horses that are left in here, he'll win. But I have absolutely no conviction that she's a particularly good horse. And I think she's going to be dramatically overbet in this race. So in my opinion, you're supposed to bet against her.
Okay. I think she's a nice filly. And I can't disagree with anything. I can't disagree with anything you said. She's gotten great setups. She's gotten good rides. She's gotten the job done in both of her starts, and maybe she's up against it with the extra furlong today. I don't know. I don't think that's going to be the case. She's the kind of horse where I don't know. Until she does something wrong or proves it wrong.
Well, she hasn't done a lot right. She looks like she's done a lot right on paper, but she's done nothing to actually back that up in the way races have run. She's not impossible in here.
Just because horses get good trips doesn't mean they haven't done anything.
Right. Here's the problem, Anthony. Every horse, there's 5 horses if they're racing the turf. They're not all 4 to 1. If they were all 4 to 1, I
get that.
absolutely no problem. I'm not sure you do.
No, I do get it.
I'm not sure because you just argued against that. I don't believe this horse is going to be 3 to 5 in here. 3 to 5 on a yielding course in a paceless race, going an extra furlong, a completely and totally different situation than she's gotten. And to me, that's the epitome of a horrible, horrible gamble. I'm not going to be surprised when she wins. I'm fine losing to her. But these are the kind of horses, if you're going to make money in the game, you're betting against, not on. And that, to me, is a fact.
Okay. We look at that. We look at this a lot differently.
I realize that we look at it differently, but I believe that I'm right in this situation. You don't agree? That's fine. I think Christophe Clement's other horse, Mischievous Dream, is actually a very interesting alternative to this horse because you look at her race down in Florida. She had a little bit of a trip after she broke a length and a half, 2 lengths slow in that race, and she improved dramatically in there down at Gulfstream. I'm going to tell you something about this horse. She was running well enough when she was running her 2-year-old year that with any kind of improvement, I don't know that she's not as good, if not better, than Kokopelli, and she's going to be a much better price. So I'm picking Christophe's other horse.
Beat Boys on her debut. Ran into 3.
Toby's Heart.
Toby's Heart, Amanzi, and Pillow.
She beat
and
Invincible Gal. It was a nice win for Graham Motion. She had a nice trip in her turf race down at Gulf. Every time I see a Graham Motion horse at Churchill Downs, the horse is getting a lousy trip.
Yeah.
I mean, I just think she's a much more interesting horse in here. What are you doing in this race if it comes off the turf? Besides being annoyed.
I went to Betsy Blue.
Yeah, I don't like her. Because I think she'd be a super short. She can win. I'm not.
You think she's going to be short? I mean, her figs don't say she's supposed to be
by 5
short.
lengths in the Slam Muddy Seal track last time in a stake.
Isn't Diva Banker supposed to be the favorite?
She is, but she's not going to be the favorite because this horse is stake-faced, I think, and she's got IRAD. I like the important one if this race comes off the turf. Please, if this race comes off the turf, leave the important one in. The best race she's ever run was her race at Saratoga behind Officer Hutchie and Spin Yard. She was against the track that day. That was an inside track that day. That's the best race she's ever run, and they keep running her on the turf. She's a third horse. At least find out. This race comes off, I'm betting the important one. And then when she runs badly, I can wait till they run her on a dry dirt track. But I think her last race, I think she's a very interesting horse. This race comes off the turf.
You'd be a good trainer. You have your excuse ready. You have your excuse
I'm
ready
sorry,
4.5 hours
No,
before.
I'm sorry. Since
I'm
you made a
just
silly
saying.
comment, am I wrong that important one's best races in the dirt?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
I don't know if she's much horse, period, but I agree with that. Her better races
I'm
have been
not
on
saying
the dirt.
she's a superstar. No question
I
about it.
don't disagree.
But the best race she's ever run was that race. Now, listen,
And
maybe
it
it was an
doesn't look that way
aberration.
because she wins on the turf. But
maybe
yes, I
that was
agree.
an aberration, and I don't have a problem with that, but at least let's...
Yeah,
and it
no.
wasn't an off-the-turf race. And
No, it was
Officer
an intended-
Hutchie
it was
was
an
in
intended
tremendous
dirt race.
form
Yes,
then.
it was.
So,
Yes,
you
it
know,
was. And listen, if it's off the turf, I mean, double or nothing has to be respected, doesn't she?
absolutely. I mean, frankly, isn't she supposed to be favored off her
She's
last two
probably
races?
the horse to beat. I mean,
Right.
based on that,
Yeah.
based on her form this winter
Completely agree.
into the spring and summer, but she's held her form.
She's
That's
unbelievable.
Been a great training.
She's one of the coolest
great-
horses, frankly, in
What do you
training
what do you
right
claim
now.
her
I
for
mean, give her a little
8,000?
love to her.
Claim her for 8,000?
Right,
With like
8,000.
150,000 with her?
160 this year.
Wow.
160. Well,
Nice
she got
work.
claimed in that race. Holy cow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
Amazing.
150,000 she's made since then.
Amazing job.
And she's in the best form. I mean, she just ran.
They're the two best races of her life, back to back just now.
You're 1,000% right. We were remiss not to mention her.
Yeah.
She is. She should be favored.
She should be favored.
She should be favored on the dirt. On the turf, who knows? Maybe she'll win
This
the
is
turf.
like her 23rd
Maybe she'll
start
wire
this-
on the turf, and we'll say, how come we didn't use the speed? I don't know.
Can you imagine? I mean,
Yeah,
there's just zero
this
turf
field,
pedigree.
there's no
Yeah.
superstars in this
No.
field, Ann.
No.
Race number 9, however, is a strong field, and I'm glad it's on the turf, though we can talk about off the turf in a moment. We'll look at the good old boy Click Attack Cold Hard Cash race. You know what? I want Cold Hard Cash out of this race. You know why? Because I didn't really think he clipped heels behind, but that's the difference between I thought this horse had a very good ride. I think he's the speed, especially with the scratch of the 6, Call Me Harry. And
The scratch helps him the best.
Let me say something. Based on this race, are you not sure this horse's best race is on the turf?
Listen,
This horse ran very well in here.
I almost flipped him. When I saw that you had him on top, I just left it alone. I almost flipped him. After the scratch,
He's not
scratch
stopping
affects
this
him
horse.
the most because he is now the speed.
Well, Click Attack is not going to be far off it.
Yeah, but I think he's going to be in front today. And I think that the stretching out, Call Me Harry would have been the speed. And now
You would think.
Yeah. And now
I actually
would
thought
think
he was a little
I
alive
would
in
think
here.
Johnny's just going to put Cold Hard Cash on the lead. Listen,
I don't really want good old boy. I thought he benefited from that
but
race.
you know what it
but
is
he
with
can
him,
win.
Andy? Like you said, maybe Cold Hard Cash is a turf horse. But I know good old boy comes with his race every time.
The
I don't
problem
think
with
Click
good
It
old-
Out is respect is as trustworthy. I don't think we can
Anthony,
just say Cold Hard Cash is a turf
problem with
horse.
picking
He's
good
going to
old-
be the favorite.
problem with picking good old boy in this race is that IRAD is riding him. And no, let me finish. His horses are being massively overbet. And you've got 3 horses that hit the wire together, and I don't disagree with you.
And he got the ride in the race
Yeah,
where
and
they
he,
got
and
the
he
money.
can win. I got no problem with him, and I'm not against him. But you're taking the worst price because of the rider.
Yeah, you see, I don't know if this horse is going to be a heavy favorite.
I think he's a
people-
heavy favorite, but I think he's going to be at
Click
least a half a point to a point lower than he probably should be because IRAD's riding him.
It out. Okay.
I'm not against him, but I think you're once again taking the worst of it from an odds standpoint. Are you convinced the force something to tell you will show his win 2 races back, and they tried a mile and a quarter with him? I'm not convinced this horse doesn't belong with these horses.
I'm not. What about and I think
Improving horse.
I think the same could be said for Mo Faith.
I can't bet Mo Faith after his last race. He was atrocious. He was atrocious in there. I know he lost to a nice horse.
Yeah.
He never ran a step in there. I'm done with him. I'll get him in the winner's circle.
I'll tell you what I
can't
like.
take him
I'll
off
tell
his
you what I
last race.
like. He had almost 2 months between the last. Listen,
awful.
this is a fun race. This is a fun race to wrap the
I think
card
something
today.
to tell you can win this race.
I do too. I have him fourth. He can win. You have him fourth too, right? Yeah.
On the,
I mean, I don't
who'd you
have
like on
no
the dirt?
faith up there. I like Cold Hard Cash.
I picked at 13, 12, 11, 3 on the dirt. I've left my dirt picks, I think, as of you on the website. So if these races do
8th
come
and
off,
9th, yes.
you can
They're
check
both
them
up.
on the website. But I prefer too early in here outside. I know
I
it's
have a
not
good
winning
feeling
type.
we're gonna eke this the late double out on the turf today.
Surprised there wasn't a clap of thunder the second you said that.
No, I think we're gonna be okay. There won't be any thunder today.
You're going to be out here
it's too
early
cool.
tomorrow? What's the?
Yeah, I'm hosting. I'm hosting the Equine Forum for Mike Penna tomorrow.
Wow. You must be pretty honored to have you on for
can
that.
start your day with us. Mike Stidham's going to join us to talk about Mystic Guide and the Suburban. Kelly Breen going to join us to talk about my boy Forensic Fire. And
What about his horse in the race before it, Princess Grace?
She is cross-entered to run in the Penny.
I wonder
on
if
Tuesday.
she's cross-entered in case it comes off. I hope she runs. I think she can beat Viadera.
I think she's cross-entered because the horse on the outside is named Viadera.
I think she can beat Viadera.
Okay.
I think she's going to run well if she runs here. I hope she
Okay.
runs here. But
yeah, I don't know what the deal is. There was a story in DRF kind of promoting
know a
her
bunch
running
of
at the
them.
Penny.
Really?
Four of the fillies and mares in our race tomorrow on turf, which is only have 7 across entered in the Penny.
the name of the game is Naira Bets. Head over to nairabets.com if you're not a member. .com. Use the promo code MATCH200. We will match the $200 of your initial deposit. Also, what else do we have, Francisco? We have the contest.
Francisco, $300 buy-in. Wraps up in about, 4 hours and 40 minutes.
4.5 hours, yeah. A little over 4.5 hours. Great contest. Head over to naira.com/contest for more information. And finally, if you hit the first double, races 1 and 2 for $10 or more, you get a $10 bonus on Fridays at Belmont. And your head turns into that, I think.
That's what I said.
What?
That's not Performer.
Are you sure?
I'm positive.
You're sure?
That horse is probably a gray, based on the mane. Or roan, gray or roan.
You guys have a similar mane, actually, going on here.
No, we don't.
I think,
that
Anthony,
horse has a
would
lot more hair than
would
I
you
do.
please grow a mullet back?
I didn't have a mullet.
Let me
The
ask you a question.
mullet goes down
Is there
the
anybody
back.
out
Was-
here that doesn't think that Anthony had a mullet at
It's
one
not a
point in his
mullet.
life?
The mullet goes down the back. The back of my head was shaved. That's why
Anthony,
it looks so
there's
weird.
no chance that you
Looked
did
like
that.
a piece
At
because
some
it was
point in your
flipping up
life, you had a
back here.
mullet. I'm just saying at some point. you had
No. No.
I'm not buying it.
No. It was always a Guido Gelmet
You're the best.
or a crew cut. That was it. I never had anything else. And that Schwuyadel I had on my head a couple of winters ago.
Well, you were working on it here the last week before I went on vacation.
Ruben wasn't around. What do you want me to tell you? I couldn't get over there. We got over there the other day. He looked at me. He hates when I take it. He's like, "Gotta take it off." I was like, "Gotta take it off."
We're
This guy
sloppy.
next to me just harasses me all day.
We're sloppy and we're yielding. The 8th and 9th are still on the turf.
Not talking about my head.
2nd, 5th, and 6th are off. He's the big A, Anthony Stabile. I'm not. The man coming up next is the great John Imbrial. America's Day at the Races, 1 to 5:30, covering all the action. Acacia and I think Paula Duke on early, and myself and Greg Wolf, and Maggie, of course, doing her usual song and
There you
dance
go.
as well. Greg is back from his vacation, so looking forward to all that. Have a wonderful day. Take care.